Welcome to the Thought Leaders Business Lab, Brandon. I'm super excited to have you here joining us today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited to see what comes out in this episode.
Totally. Today we are talking about video and content creation. And just for those that are listening or maybe you're watching, the reason I've invited Brandon onto the show is that I recently have completed his course, the 4X Video Effect. And I reached out and said, wow, this is one of the best courses I've ever done. Please come on the show. So thank you so much for coming on. And I'm very grateful to have you here.
Yeah, of course.
For those who haven't heard of you, I'd love you to share what it is that you're doing at the moment and the kinds of clients that you work with. I think that'd be a really great place to start.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So when you look at what we do and who we are on the surface level, it looks like we are just a video marketing company, a video production company. But really at the core of what we do and what separates us from everyone else, and I think is really like our zone of genius, is that we're really a messaging. And so what we're really good at is finding that message that's you, that's impactful, that's what you stand for. And it really kind of gets you to play out of the middle so that you're not blending in. It's like, how do we create this high contrast messaging where people hear things in ways they've never heard before and they go like, oh my gosh, I need that, or that makes so much sense. So we're kind of this messaging company first. The second is we are a marketing company. So we take this unique approach where we know how to get the right message to the right person at the right time. Like how do we get them from point A to point Z? And so we know the whole strategy, everything from the content to what the sales funnel is going to look like to the close of the sale and all of that stuff. So we know where video plays. And then the last piece of that is we are a video production company and a video marketing company where we will actually produce and edit the content too. But the way I approach video is more of our vehicle. And so what we do is a lot of the things that we teach and a lot of the tactics we talk about and a lot of the influence persuasion we use can be really applied to a podcast or emails or copy or anything. But we use video, one, because I know it really well. And two, I think video right now is one of the best mediums to use because it could be instant traction inside of your business where you can create a video and within 24 hours have 10,000 views on it if you want. So that's kind of who we are and what we do.
Totally. So I want to just quickly touch on content trends coming. It's the start of a new year. It's the start of 2019. There's a lot of people that are probably reviewing or have done over the last couple of months reviewed, and they've got a plan for moving forward into the year. What can you share about the content trends of where you see, where we are right now?
Yeah. So I think the biggest trend right now is that there's more and more and more noise. And so it's very easy to get or to like be blended in or to get skipped over because you are blending in with everyone else out there. And so high contrast with content is really the way to go. And a perfect example of this is Gary Vaynerchuk, who has a very kind of like polarizing message, but a very clear message. And he plays into a very certain identity and he's very polarizing against the identity he doesn't want. And that's the entrepreneur. He ties into the entrepreneur. And a lot of the times that's kind of like the beginning entrepreneur. Lewis Howes is another example of someone who has content that actually stands for something. Even James Wedmore, who is a client of ours who've helped with a lot of his scripting and his video content. His whole thing is about his podcast, Mind Your Business, which is could be a polarizing topic because it goes down this like spiritual path and a lot of mindset issues that make people uncomfortable. But I think the biggest trend that we've been seeing, and for years I've been teaching, find popular topics, find popular keywords, do video SEO, get ranked in YouTube, and find these trending topics and create content on that because that's what people are looking for. But the problem with that is that you're not really tapping into what really helps a business grow with content, which is connection. And how on earth are you supposed to have a unique, impactful message when you're forced to create content around popular topics? What keywords and popular topics do is they put you on their path of a message. And so right now, when we look at like Lewis Howes and James Wedmore and Gary Vaynerchuk, they are growing really fast. They're really they're leaders of the space, and they don't use a single how-to video, or if they do, it's very, very rare. And so the biggest trends right now in content is kind of like standing out because you stand for something, playing on the left or the right side and not playing in the middle. The middle is kind of where you drown out. And so what I tell everyone is there's 5 levels of market sophistication, and to explain this in very simple terms is the 4th level. If you're there and you're succeeding, it's because you don't have any competitors. But what happens is when you start getting competitors, you start to blend in, which means you have to elevate yourself to the 5th level, which is where you create your own space. And so when we look at content, we look at it as how do we create our own space? And we look at what we've done with video. I'm not a YouTube expert. I'm not a Facebook video expert. I'm the video Forex effect. You know, I am the person who helps you with messaging and content, and I have a very unique process that we use, and I'm in my own space, and no one can compete in that space because I created it, unless they just want to copy me and rip me off. But I have no competitors. And so that's the biggest trend right now with content that I'm seeing.
Oh, I'm so glad that you talked about that, because I think that, and I'm going to put my hand up and say, you know, at certain times I've been caught up in this where people say, who are your competitors? You start to look, you start to notice what they're doing. And before you know it, without even trying, you start to almost like morph in, and it's not that you're intentionally going out to copy, but, you know, you start to take on certain characteristics or do certain things that other people are doing. And I had a really interesting call with a client last week who was really struggling to get a keynote together that he was presenting on the weekend. And I started tapping into it. And what he was doing was saying, well, you know, it's like this person and it's like this person. And this is how he was trying to explain it. Where when I said, well, hang on, don't worry about all those other people. You've been in business for 40 years. You know some really cool stuff. Tell me about that. And the second that we tapped into what his specific experiences were, what his specific talents are, and what his passion is, I think it took about 15 minutes, and his keynote was absolutely mapped out in seconds, you know, because we can get caught up in trying to be, you know, what we're not, or, you know, what the trend is in bringing in the most money, or looking at someone else's funnel. And I really, really appreciate that you brought up that. I think that the biggest trend is for us to really know who we are and to tap into that, and make it polarizing. So people can either say, I love you, or I don't. And those people that don't love you, they weren't ever going to buy from you anyway, right?
Totally. Exactly. And that's why I mean, we still use keywords, and I think all that stuff does have its place, but because it could be great organic growth. But at the end of the day, if you're still not connecting with those people, or you're not playing into their identity, or you're not using the right proper influence persuasion or the right message, like it's your business isn't going to succeed, because like views and followers don't equal sales and more money in your bank account. And so we treat everything as like, how do we connect? How do we make an impact? Even the way we treat money is like, the more money we make, the bigger impact we can make. Totally. And so, you know, for us, it's just kind of like, we want to take a stand. We want to shift, you know, problems that we see in the world. And we operate at a place, and a lot of our clients operate at a place where it's like, this is who we are. This is what we stand for. Get in or get out. And, you know, for us last year, we doubled, almost tripled our sales from 2017, 2018. And I never did any of the stuff that people tell you to do. We didn't do consistent content. We didn't do an email your list every week. In fact, I haven't emailed my list in like 3 months. Yet we're still able to triple sales because of this, because of the strategy, because of the messaging, because we're talking about something that no one is talking about. We're operating at the 5th level of market sophistication.
Now, you mentioned just a little minute ago that you know, the people that you're working with don't do like how-to videos. And what can you tell us about creating our content to actually convert? Because I think that's where it was probably the biggest win out of doing your course, is understanding the way that you position your videos. What can you tell us about being able to move people into that sales funnel? Because that's why we're doing content, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So people forget, it's like, it's content marketing, and marketing is supposed to make you money. And if it's not making you money, what's the point? So basically, so we still do use how-to content. We still do use that stuff. I would say it's about like 20-80 or 25-75, meaning that like 75 or 80% of our content is not how-to educational content. So one of the types of videos we like to use is what I call thought reversals, which is taking a popular belief or popular topic or a popular objection and flipping it on its head. And so, you know, a quick example of this would be something like, I'll use the how-to example. I'll say something like, how-to content is not the type of content you need to grow your brand. And then I would say, but I understand why you think that. because everyone and their mom talks about like adding value. You need to educate, and that's how you add value, and that's how you grow a brand. So I understand why you think that. And then I go into the discredit, which would be, look at Gary Vaynerchuk. He grew the fastest out of anyone, and he didn't use a single how-to video. And so what I did is I completely obliterated the belief that most people believe to be true. And so now what happens is when they enter my sales funnel and I start talking about like taking a stand for something and talking about, stand up for what you believe in, playing to identity, I don't need to address this idea of getting rid of how-to content because I already took care of that problem up front in my ongoing content. Now, the beautiful part about this is when you take care of that in your upfront content, you get really loyal followers really fast because you completely shifted their reality and you shifted their perspective. So not only are they going to enter your sales funnel with less objections, but they're entering your sales funnel at a whole nother level of awareness and a whole another level of connection with you. And so what we like to do is we like to take a lot of our content. Sometimes we'll use a basic how-to video to kind of like lure people in. And then if they like it, then they'll move to another move to like a thought reversal, and then a connection-based video, and then a belief-based video, and then they'll enter our sales funnel. So by now they've seen like 3 or 4 of our videos that are designed to remove objections, build connection, and position us as an authority. And when you're able to do that, it makes the sales funnel convert way higher. It lowers your cost per lead if you're running like Facebook ads and stuff like that. So we really take this 3 or 4 prong approach where like connection needs to be built, objections need to be removed, and like authority needs to be established. And so that's kind of how we structure a lot of our content.
Yeah.
So does that make sense? Did I explain that okay?
Well, it makes sense to me.
Okay, good.
And right now, I'm the only one here. So.
Yeah. Okay, good. We're good then.
Yeah, we're all good. Awesome. All right. So really what you're talking about here is a shift in content. It's not you're not saying we're not doing how-to videos at all. And I wanted to say that up front, but just in case people get confused, you're not saying that, we're only sort of doing 1 or 2 videos. You're just saying that there's a shift in the way that you need to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a shift in what's happening right now. And it's happening for a couple of reasons. One is just so much content out there now that you really need to like be unique and take a stand, and you just can't blend in. And so I think that's the biggest shift. It's just kind of like what's been working in content for the last 5 to 10 years is changing. And if you don't shift now, you're just going to be a harder uphill battle. And so the biggest thing is just how do you elevate yourself above all the noise? And it's like you stand out because you stand for something, essentially, is what it comes down to.
I mean, really, at the end of the day, what I was doing 12 months ago isn't working the same. Like we always need to be changing up what we're doing and staying ahead of the trends. Things move way faster now than they did. God, when I went into business 26 years ago, we could use the same marketing every year for like 10 years straight. It was just rinse and repeat every year.
Right.
But it's not like that anymore. And I think that especially people that have been in business a while like me, or people that have even, been in corporate, have got a side hustle, they're like, well, this has always worked. This is what we're going to do. You really, really need to get rid of that mentality, or you're going to be gone in really, really short amount of time.
Yeah. And that's the other thing people don't realize too, is they hear like 5, internet gurus or whatever say like add value, this is the way you need to educate, this is the way you build a brand. And then they'll put out consistent content for a year and still not see the progress that they want, yet they'll keep doing it because that's what everyone tells you to do. Yeah. And it's like something has to change at some point. You can't just keep doing it, Yeah. So I agree. It's like, it's moving at a fast rate right now. And it could be a little scary unless you kind of figure out the trends. You see the invisible stuff going on. I feel like that's kind of what we're tapping into, is seeing the invisible going on, and we're able to like put it in a process and a structure and give that to our students and give that to our clients.
And what you just said then, it's a little scary. I actually found it the opposite. I found it super exciting because I was like, oh, wow, this is so cool what we can do, because we're really able to develop our thought leadership and really stand for something and say, this is what I believe in, and be able to talk about our content in a way that really resonates with us, which, like you say, is exactly what Gary Vaynerchuk's done. He just absolutely 100% stands for it. Doesn't matter who doesn't like him. It's like, this is what I believe. And that's what I really love. And, we can do that.
Yeah, totally. And here's the distinction I want to make sure that everyone understands is that he talks about what he believes in to the degree of the identity he's trying to attract, meaning that he's not talking about all of his beliefs across his entire life. He's talking about who do I want? What do I believe in that person's identity? And he only speaks to that piece of it. Because I'm sure he has beliefs of like, parenting, for example, because he is a father, but he only talks about parenting in the way it is for raising kids to be entrepreneurs, and he brings it back to the identity of who he's trying to attract, and that's the key. So it's I don't want you guys to listen to this podcast episode and go talk about everything you believe in. It has to play in, like, the beliefs that play into the identity of who you're trying to attract is kind of that key ingredient.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome distinction, and thanks for circling back to that.
Yeah.
All right, so the 4X video effect. I'd love you to tell us or explain what the 4X video effect is, and take us through the 4 pillars.
Sure. Yeah. So it's our methodology, and everything inside of our company is based off of this methodology. All of our products, all of our offers are the video 4X effect, and we basically sell it on 3 levels. It's like done for you, done with you, and do it yourself, done with you, and done for you, which is like our course, our coaching program, and our service. So the way it's broken down is in 4 pillars, where pillar number 1 is identifying your impact and your revenue goals. And so what most people do is they just start creating content for the sake of creating content. And they think, again, we're tapping back into what we talked about earlier, they start creating content because of keywords and what people think that they create content on what they think their audience wants and all of this stuff, but they don't actually identify how is that video getting someone one step closer to either fulfilling on your impact or your revenue. And so then what happens is people start creating content for the sake of creating content. And so what we do is we identify what's the revenue, how do we generate that revenue, and then also what's the impact that we want to make. And then from that point, we can work backwards on what type of content is going to actually get us to those goals. And so the first pillar is identifying all of that. The second pillar is the impactful messaging. So this is kind of, what is that unique message that's yours? What do you actually stand for? How do you incorporate proper influence and persuasion so that you create content and scripts that play into how the human mind processes information? So this is a lot about how to use reframes and sleight of mouth patterns, and like basically how to communicate in a way where people go like, got it. Yes. That makes sense. And then the third pillar is the synergistic strategy. So I'm not about sticking to one platform, because if something happens to that platform or something changes and all your eggs are in one basket, then you're kind of screwed if something happens. And so what we like to do is create a synergistic strategy. And this is what pillar number 3 is. And it's how do we use Instagram and Facebook and YouTube to all work together. And so at the end of the day, we're using Facebook and Instagram to build remarketing audiences that I can run ads to, or webinar funnels. And we use YouTube a lot, again, for remarketing audiences, so we can run YouTube ads to them, but also to build our email list. And so ultimately we're building these different assets from each platform with video content, and then those assets help us get one step closer. And so that's our synergistic strategy of how do we make it all work together. And then the fourth process is how do you actually do it? And so this is making video hands-off for you, the entrepreneur. So we have workflows, we have processes, we have systems in place that allow us to film 3 or 6 months of content in 3 days, and then bring it back in-house and put it onto Dropbox. And then we have our internal editing process that allows all our video content to come out, everything from like style guides of how to edit, and we have our team in place. And so when I first got started, I had 100% overseas team. So my overseas team, I would upload, 6 months worth of content on YouTube or on Dropbox. And then they would take it, they would edit it, and they would spit me back the final versions. It's already been through a QC process. Everything's done and it's perfect. And so in order for video to work inside of a business, you really need all 4 of these pillars. And if one of these pillars are off, or video, let's just put it this way, if video is not working in your business, it's usually of how you're using video. It's not that video doesn't work. And usually one of those pillars are off in some degree.
Yeah. Like when people say Facebook ads don't work or Google ads don't work, it's never the ad, when I have people coming to me saying, Sam, I need Facebook ads. It's 99.9% of the time it's the messaging.
100%.
It's not the ad.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer. I wouldn't even say 99.9. I mean, I would even say 100% of the time. I mean, 99.9 say is probably accurate actually, but like I always say, if your funnel's not working, your webinar's not working, your video series isn't working, your content's not working, it's a messaging problem.
Yeah.
It's not the platform. It's not the vehicle. It's messaging. 100%.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. The synergistic strategy, that third pillar, this is a really important one, because I think that too many people get caught up in one platform. I interviewed JP Sears, and obviously he's an amazing, he's built an amazing brand in what seems like really quickly, when, you know, he's one of those overnight 10-year success kind of people. And that was one of the things that he said, is that he wanted to be loyal to YouTube when he first started, and, build everything on YouTube. But it wasn't until he started putting his videos on Facebook, starting to do different things, and, he's huge on Instagram and Instagram stories now, that it all started to fall into place, because there's different people, different places, and they need to see us in different places and in different ways as well.
100%. Well, even the functionality on each platform is completely different too. So the way you can run content on Facebook allows for instant traction, and that doesn't happen per se on YouTube, but YouTube's great for organic, long-term search-based stuff. And so there's completely different functionalities. And so it doesn't, at least to me, it doesn't make, like he said, it doesn't make sense to stick to a single platform. Because you miss out on a lot. Exactly.
Perfect. What can you tell us about the psychology behind what it is you're doing? Because, I know that you have talked about it very quickly with the sleight of mouth patterns, but I think this is, and for me personally, the biggest thing I've actually taken out of your course, besides all those systems, because being a systems,
like
I love systems. Anyone that's in my world knows I'm talking about them all the time. But it's the psychology of what you're doing that is really different. Are you able to go into this a little deeper?
Yeah.
And that's a super open-ended question, I guess. I'm just throwing you under the bus.
I was like, how do I tackle this and not keep this under 5 hours? So basically what we do is we just don't start scripting about what's on our mind. We really take into consideration, where's this person at and where do they need to be? And how do we use language to shift them in certain ways? And so really the idea behind everything that we do is we create content and we script with the understanding that everything is a belief. Like 99% of stuff that people believe to be true, or this is the way it is a belief, and there's no truth in it at all. We operate with the understanding that the only thing that's true is what a video camera would capture, meaning that if I said something to you, you said something to me, and we got into an argument, the only truth is that you and I were saying words to each other, because that's what the video camera captured. Anything beyond that is an interpretation. It's a story. But what most people do is they take that interpretation and they take that story and they live their life as if it's true. And it causes suffering in so many people's lives. And we all do it. But we create content with that understanding, because if something is a belief, it means it can also be discredited. And so what we do is we look at what beliefs are being held and what's stopping someone from understanding this, or why would they argue against this? And we use sleight of mouth patterns to be able to disarm or discredit those things. And so, like, for example, the one that I gave earlier with Gary Vaynerchuk, or how-to content not being the fastest way to grow a brand, and using Gary Vaynerchuk, that's called a counterexample, where I found an example that discredited the belief. And all I need is one, and one that most people know, and then the belief is completely busted. Because in order for something to be true, it needs to be true 100% of the time. And so most people never take this approach to content, and you really have to kind of like figure out really who are you talking to, what are they thinking, what are these beliefs that we need to discredit, and how do we do it? And so what a lot of people do with content and messaging is they make a lot of statements, because they're like, I believe in this statement, so I'm going to make it because Brandon told me to take a stand and I'll stand out because I'm standing for something. And that's kind of true, where like if I said a launch is not a business, I am speaking about a belief. But the problem is, if someone doesn't already believe that, they're not following me on a subconscious level. So what we need to do is we need to constantly discredit things. So instead of saying a launch is not a business, what I would say, a launch is not a business because it's missing the one thing that every successful business has, which is consistent, scalable, and reliable income. Find me any company that's in the Fortune 100 and look at how they make their money. They all know how they're going to make their money next month. With a launch, you can't do that. And so now what I did is I completely discredited the belief that a launch is not a business. And now what I'm getting is people to like nod their head with the messaging. So we constantly will state something and then we look at how do we back it up? How do we discredit? And when we script write, that's everything. It's just like one after another after another. And now we're pulling people through the content almost to the point where they're like nodding their head like, oh, that's true. Oh, that's true. Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
And so what we're really doing is we start pulling back the onion and the layers that people have built up over the years. And the last piece of really why I love what I do is because there's so many beliefs that people hold that cause suffering in their life. Like we hear it all the time, complaining and negativity, and I don't get paid enough, or I deserve this or that, and blah, 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 blah. These are all that are causing suffering in people's lives that from situations they think to be true. And a lot of times we're able to discredit and remove the suffering in people's lives through content. And so that's why I love doing what I do. That's why I love working with people like you and my students. And that's why I love working with our clients, because it allows me to go down different avenues to actually impact people's lives and really have a real impact in this world. And so it's a lot of it's based off of influence and persuasion and a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. And not the dark side of influence and persuasion. Can I just say, this is the good stuff. This is it's tied into the impact, because it really is trying to discredit people's beliefs that are leading them down a path of living a life that, is not making them happy.
100%.
This isn't about, the dark art of getting money out of anyone just for the fact that we want to have a private jet. That's not what we're talking about here.
Exactly. And the thing is, people don't understand about influence persuasion is that you can't force someone to do something they don't want to do in a 5-minute video with words. And so what it is doing though, is it's really removing the blocks that they built up from some past experience and something they thought to be true. And you're removing that block so they can move into something they actually want, but have convinced themselves is dangerous or risky or whatever. And a perfect example of this is Caitlin Batcher is one of our clients. And so one of the things that she wants to stand for is like, you can be a mom and you can be an entrepreneur, and being an entrepreneur doesn't mean you're a bad mom. Yes. So what she's doing is we're using influence persuasion to get these mothers who actually want to become entrepreneurs to put down the block and realize it's okay, because they want to move that way, but they're so afraid of the judgment. But we're able to remove that belief and we're able to remove that suffering for them. And so that's what influence persuasion really is. And we're able to do that in like a 5-minute video. And so again, I could have like a 5-minute conversation with you, use the best light of mouth patterns, use the best reframes, use the best like whatever. And I'm still not going to get you to do something that you don't want to do. So you can't do that. We're not hypnotizing people. We're just using language that moves people into the places that they already want to move into.
Totally. And and thank you so much for me throwing that question at you, which is so open-ended. I really wanted to really drive back the psychology and why we need to know that impact that we want to make, because it's all tied together. We need to know the impact we want to make. We need to know exactly who we're speaking to so that we can impact their lives. And you tied that in so beautifully. Thanks, Brandon.
Of course. Yeah. I'm glad it made sense.
It made perfect sense. And I know that the people listening are going to be going, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I wanted to hear now. This is exactly what I want to do. I'm here to create a positive impact. The people that are in my world are amazing and have got, the ability to change so many people's lives, and so many of them are being held back by all sorts of things. So helping them to move forward and get what they want is why you and I do what we do, right?
100%.
Yeah, totally.
It's what drives me every day.
Yeah. And soul sister.
I'll take it.
Yeah. down in Australia call me her soul sister today. See, I've made your day.
Yeah. There you go.
Awesome. Brandon, for the people that are listening that are just totally loving what you're talking about and they want to learn more about you, how can they stay connected with you? Is there, tell us more about how they can land in your world.
Yeah. So I have a couple different ways. Number one is probably going to be our Facebook page, which I think is facebook.com/sold video. I'll send you the links. So that would be the first one. One of the reasons why is because I love Facebook video, probably more than YouTube. I love the platform that video provides, or Facebook provides for video. So I would say that's number one. Number two is obviously our website. And so we have the Video Forex Effect handbook in there that goes through each pillar and has a couple different exercises. So if you go to our website, it'll be right there on the homepage. And then the third way would be to just kind of go to either YouTube or Instagram as well. And so one of the things that we have not done last year is that consistent content, even though we saw so much growth, but we're trying to be a little more consistent with it and really get our message out there in a bigger way than we did. And so I think any one of those platforms are going to be heavily utilized by us pretty soon. So any of those three areas would be the best.
And thanks for being so honest and just calling it as it is and saying, this is what I teach and we're not perfect. I just love that right up front because that's what makes you so amazing. So guys, head to soldwithvideo.com, all of those social media links and all of the links for you to go to grab your, the 4 pillars of the Forex Video Effect will all be in the show notes. But Brandon, you've given us so much value today. You've dropped value bomb after value bomb. What message do you want to leave our listeners with that really has them walking away from this episode going, that's it?
I think the biggest thing is that you really have to do what you want to do. If there's something in your life that causes some kind of suffering, then just don't do it. Like for me, one of the biggest things, and Taylor, my integrator, probably no, she does not like it about me, is like grammar. Like, I don't care if an email goes out and it has a typo in it and it's not going to slow down my success. I am who I am and I stand behind who I am. And if you don't like it, then don't consume my content. Don't be around me. Get the F out of here. I don't care. And so that's the biggest thing. And that's what we bring to our content. And that's what we teach everyone. And you stand out because you're uniquely you. It's such an empowering feeling to live your life when you're not controlled by other people's opinions, other people's thoughts, other people's judgments. And that's like, if I could leave anyone with anything, even if it's not in the entrepreneur world, is like, be you and be proud of it. And if you can run a business that way, it's one of the most liberating and free feelings that you can ever have in your entire life. And so for me, that's the biggest thing. And I just think that if people can live that way, this world will be a much better place, because you like more often than not are in a happy place in your life. And so I think that would be my overall message. And that, that's kind of like why I do what I do.
Yeah. And that was just so perfectly wrapped up and perfectly sums up the kind of, we haven't met in person, but it sums up every single interaction that I've had with you. Brandon, thanks so much for coming on the show. I'm so grateful that you've joined us here today and shared so much value. And thanks for being you and sharing what you do with the world, because it's certainly changed my life, which means it's changing my clients' lives. So thank you.
Oh, I love that. And thank you for having me on and giving me the opportunity to get my message out there. I appreciate it.
Such a pleasure.